listening to Enlivening Musings, a podcast to enhance your life so you live fully alive. Sponsored by the Pleasure Fairy app. Download it for more support. Welcome to Enlivening Musings. I'm Crystal.
And I'm Katie.
And today we're going to dive into an aspect of parenting and how, when we have this extra knowledge that we love talking about, because when we know things for ourselves, it lights us up. How when we do that with our kids, sometimes it makes it where we just want to make everything all better.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I talking about? I am talking about how we apply things like gene keys or human design or numerology or Western astrology or Chinese astrology, or like the list goes on, right? There are so many things out there for us to learn about ourselves and dive into that. And even when I taught parenting classes, I would say, well, sometimes it really helps to know your kid. So if you can learn some of this, then you can be even more loving and accepting. And the big disclaimer and caveat is, but don't put it on them, meaning you're not going to want to hold them to something in a way where it makes it negative, basically, and or like you're pigeonholing them into, well, you're this, so you should be this way, kind of a thing, So you're not putting it on them. But you get to take the insights and the information so that you can find more acceptance and compassion and understanding and more easily slip into your love space, is what my parenting classes were, love space parenting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that, because I think I noticed too, sometimes you might hear someone talk about, well, like, this is my sassy child and this is that one, and how that can just be really not fun. No one wants to be labeled anything.
Right.
So much so. I mean, yeah. Yeah. Even though in my head, I can think of my kids in their human design or maybe their sun sign. And I'm like, oh, yep, that's their Virgo coming through. Or I just found out my son has a ton of Virgo placements and a Virgo sun. He's a manifester. And so I'm like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge.
Just aware of what he needs, how I can support it and bring out the positives of it versus focusing on the more challenging aspects of it. That's where we kind of nurture them a little bit. And I don't know. I just feel like knowing those things about my kids it just gives me a sigh of peace and relief of oh, well, first of all, they're all very different. And just letting them be themselves.
Right. Exactly. So one of the things that made all of this percolate for me and start triggering some things was because of that, how much I love supporting that and letting them be themselves, and all of that is how life brings the twists and the turns. And because I know this information, there are things that come up and I can see, for me specifically, I was looking at one of my kiddos' gene keys and their core wounding and stuff like that, because I was, in my own core wounding sphere again, as I've spent, durations of time in each sphere for myself. And so I was, just peeking at theirs, and life brought this experience, and it was bringing up this basically this deep-rooted fear of losing your tribe, your family, or collective of people where you really feel you belong. And I was just oh my gosh, this is so frustrating, because I want to be able to erase this. I want to be able to take this entire experience that's happening and not do this. And so, also knowing that that particular child is an emotional authority in human design, this whole scenario is about her making these choices based on some extracurricular activities and where she was placed and yada yada. And so I was giving her all this time to like ride her emotional wave and see where she landed and all this stuff. Well, then also seeing where things were coming up with some of this wounding. And it was just so intense as a mom, and as a mom who wants to just be able to curb that, wanting to be able to be like, okay, let me protect you from all of this, and just how much we can't, you
Right.
know? Like, we all have our own dharma and our own karma, and we all come here with our own wounding, which I just think is a cool follow-up podcast to our previous interview with Donna and the shadow
Hmm.
work. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that one
Yeah,
out.
she's amazing.
I know, I love it. And that makes me actually even want to talk about, our shadows in general are like for us. But knowing those of your kids, sometimes it just brings all of that up where it's like, I want to be able to help them and make this all better.
Right. But then like, it's interesting. So like me hearing it from an outside perspective and like then my own lived experience, like, but you need that. Otherwise you can't embrace it to get to the gift. Like there's no way to get to the gift if you don't embrace the subconscious shadow, the wound.
Mm-hmm.
So it's allowing me as I hear you talk to think about like with my own kids, if I see that, like just kind of like holding the barrier, like I picture myself just kind of holding like this energetic sphere around it, like yeah, this is hard, but I also know like this will someday allow them to get to the gift in the city. If we're
Mm-hmm.
talking gene keys, let's say.
Right.
And like I don't know why the world is the way it is, that we have to go through hardship to get to the gift and the joy, but it just seems like that's what it's like to be a human. Like not in every scenario, but like it is. Why? I don't know, right? That's the biggest life question, is why we have to have pain at sometimes. But I don't know. It's just yeah, it's just so interesting to think about that, of how we can just like hold that barrier on the outside and let them, they just have to be in it, because maybe 20 years from now, it'll be a reflection that opens up the gift for them to like blossom into this whole thing when they unlock it, or hopefully they'll unlock it sooner. I don't know.
Yeah.
Such a big,
It
confusing, weird ride, but yeah, they have to go through it.
Right, right. It's same, like when they're sick and you just want to make them feel better. And
Hmm.
I guess that was kind of maybe my whole intention of even wanting to talk about it on here, was to just inspire people and remind
Hmm.
people that that is the thing. Like, we can only do our own part in supporting and observing and allowing for our children and the next generation to like move through this, and whatever we can to do that. When I talk about the shadow being for ourselves, being able to then look at them, and if we do utilize the gene keys, looking at their gift and city and holding that as the powerful thing, or like in this situation, um the opposite. Like, I was looking at one of her lines. um oh, right now I can't even remember what the opposite is, so I'll just use my own line. But mine is rejection and the opposite is gentleness. So being able to hold like that gentleness, or like you go to the more like positive supportive side of that, and being able to hold that for them, to hold that space so they can move through
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah, without trying to force it on
Right,
them, and kind of like letting them fully feel it, right? Because it's like
right.
unlocking something in them if they can fully feel it. And then, yeah, you're just like kind of waiting on the other side of the bridge almost with this. Yeah.
Well, and I think about just the power of that for the future generation then, because of how much like our generation wasn't really allowed to feel
Mm-hmm.
and have all these emotions. And so now it is like therapy and somatic work and all these things to just unlock all of this stuff,
I know.
right?
It's so
And
much work.
and so so you're saying maybe 20 years down the road this happens, but also even in that moment,
Yeah.
like that stepping stone of being able to unravel something, or have that first, when we think of embodiment, it always just gets deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
So it's like that first initial whoa, to then be able to have the next level of it, the next experience, and then on and on and on.
Yeah. I know. Even as I said it, I was like, no, that doesn't need to be anymore. Like, we don't have to wait this long. Like, I feel like, yeah, it's just allowing them to get on like this super highway of like fast evolution, right? Because I feel like the work, like all the work like I've done and stuff, like it's making me evolve as a human. To the
Mhm.
other day, I was talking to someone. I'm like, I feel like if I died tomorrow, I would feel good about the amount of work I've done in this lifetime to like burn off some of that karma dharma stuff I've really worked through. Like I feel pretty good. So like, yay, the more time I get to continue to do it. But
Mm.
like, is that the evolution of humanity? Is like us just like, this next generation just speeding through it so much quicker and just evolving quicker and quicker and faster into, right, the ultimate goal of the city and bliss and just enlightenment and beauty. Oh, I don't know. It's interesting. I
Mm.
just kind of thought of like how maybe that's what happens is it just gets faster and faster and more fun. And we remember, like, we start to remember as people, like, this is what it's about.
Yeah, and have that ease in surrendering to it all.
Yeah, like it just becomes more fun. Like I think for a lot of people, I'll just speak for myself in that generation of like, in your 40s and stuff. Like I'm like right in that first Gen X. Like it just seems like, a lot of us say it and I will do too. It's like a lot of work. It feels like a lot of work to do the healing, this therapy, the somatic experiencing. It's just like, I got to do this. And it's good, but it's like, oh, it gets exhausting, right? And you kind of want to, I've had times where I kind of wanted to take a break, but it's like you really can't. Like once you get on that train, like you're going. It's like that the
Well,
meme of the roller coaster ride. It's like, yay, and then it's scary and it's like, yay, and no, make it stop. And but you just like it's like once you're on, you're not getting off.
right. And you notice, like you say, it seems like it's a lot of work, but you can't just stop because you notice if you do. If you stop doing like your daily practices or something, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I feel like garbage. Like,
I know. I like
what?
tried that. I feel like some of my friends know, like, I had a lot going on when my daughter was graduating high school. There was just so much. And I was like, nope, I'm just taking a break from spirituality, guys. I'm just going to like be a regular person. And like, you can't.
Yeah.
It's like, why would I disconnect myself from all of this during a very intense
Intense.
time? Like, hello. So it was kind of like, it's funny. I look back at it and laugh because, um, yeah, I just had so many different signs and things that were pointing like you can't separate yourself from this and spirituality and who you are and um yeah, because it's just being a human.
Right, right,
So,
right.
uh,
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the intention of putting this all together and the big takeaway is just simply that. Like, it's about more allowance, and it doesn't have to just be of your kids. This can be of all people in your life,
mhm,
more allowance and acceptance, and being able to just hold that supportive bubble or
mhm,
even idea concept as people move through the stuff, especially if you are the type of person who's keyed into these other aspects that are going on. I mean, even as I'm
mhm.
saying this to kind of close this, I also am thinking I'll do that with my partner. I don't sit there and go, now let's talk about your gene keys. And this is like what's happening. And I can see it. I just like hold the possibility of the gift or anything. So, yeah, I just feel sharing what happens in our lives like that can be really powerful so that other people can know they're not alone as they sit there and want to fix everything for their kids and know they can't.
Right,
As
right.
well as like, here's something, we can do.
Yeah, and I think, like my experience of being a mother of someone who now is considered an adult, right? She's 18. So being able to like I could see things coming for her, like as far as like her being acknowledged for her gifts. And
Mm.
I was able to talk to her and I was like, I see it's like almost like I had this vision. I'm like, I can see based on everything, these circumstances, I don't think you're going to get the recognition from your peer group or instructors, let's say, that you deserve or you want. I could see the writing on the wall. I saw the way it was going as they do like awards and stuff at the end of the year. And so I kind of just was able to talk to her about it before it happened and I was right
Mm-hmm.
and she was still hurt, but
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I know because I know you.
Right.
I know your design. I know the way the world perceives you and I know how you feel on the inside.
Right.
And so I just know the confusion that can cause and some of the heartache. And so it was nice to be able to support her in that way. And even though it was super hard for her and me, like to know it's just her, that's her life. That's how she's going to be. So when they get older, it's different and you can have more conversations about it and stuff versus like my 3-year-old, he's just running around just being his total self. I don't have to explain anything to him.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of like reminding me too of like my youngest, she's 6 right now. And, one of her lines had to do with like belonging. And so it's interesting to like see, so there are some things that can support that, being able to be like, okay, I'm going to make sure that you feel included. And like, if you are really like, if you keep asking everybody to play with you, I know this is starting to like percolate. So let's like instill some of that safety of belonging because that's just going to support you as you're older. So there are ways that we can, help and support. Well, that's what we've been saying this whole time, right? Help and support it. It's just in those times when it's like there's not much you can do about it. Like when you're talking about that, like with the awards and stuff, it's like there's just certain things that, it's still just you're gonna have feelings about it, because that's what we're here doing is having our human experience. So
Yeah.
Wild.
I know. I love it. I'm so grateful for just all of it.
Yeah.
Like I'm grateful for the people like that discovered it and that share it and that really study it and break it down for us and give us little snippets that we can understand and just being able to like have friends that get it and we can talk about it and just I don't know, it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
It makes life fun. See, it is fun to be on the spiritual path. It is for this moment. Ask me tomorrow. No.
Yeah. It is. It's just some of the stuff is hard. Like it ties into anytime we talked about people resistance and or not wanting to feel pain, it's like that's just the thing. It's like it is the whole spectrum of like everything from the deepest pains to the ecstatic bliss, and it's just the whole spectrum. So we get to feel it all and do it all and be it all. And so it's not all super cozy and comfortable, but being in that uncomfortable spot. And that's, of course, why I like do so much of the heart work. Like, we could go on into a whole nother tangent here because I've just been obsessed with how much that impacts everything. Because when you can be in your heart,
Yeah.
But you do feel it. You do feel the pain. So, yeah. Okay. All right. We're going to keep going on tangents, so we'll round this out and end it. We love hearing from you, so you can reach out, listen to the end, connect with us, tell us your takeaways, and sending you lots of love on this wild journey of life. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like more support, hop on the Pleasure Fairy app or find Katie at wellnesswithkatie.com. You can also find us on Instagram at Enlivening Musings if you want to share some takeaways or other requests for future shows. Enjoy!